Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is set to visit Mexico and Panama to discuss democracy in Venezuela and Nicaragua. Hundreds have been killed in Nicaragua since April, but who is to blame? RT correspondent takes a look at the politics of the violence in the streets. Here you go, Dan.
High on the agenda of Pompeo's Latin America trip is the situation in Nicaragua and Venezuela, two countries the U.S. is seeking to isolate internationally. On September 27th, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee passed the Nicaraguan Investment Conditionality, or NICA Act. The legislation would cut off loans to the cash-strapped Nicaraguan government until it takes, quote, effective steps to hold free, fair, and transparent elections. The act makes Nicaragua's access to the international banking system contingent on the country demonstrating that it will, quote, promote democracy. Nicaraguan-American anti-war activist Camilo Mejia says the NICA Act would prevent the government from fulfilling basic duties.
The NICA Act would work as a kind of bullying measure to ensure that Nicaragua doesn't get any loans or credits from financial institutions and nations out of fear that the United States would punish them. So basically, it would interfere with infrastructural programs and anything that requires international capital.
Manuel Orozco is the director of the Migration, Remittances, and Development Program at the Inter-American Dialogue. He says the Nicaraguan government uses international loans to finance repression.
You need to cut any lifelines of the government in order for them to sit down at the negotiating table. The main issue is that they are responsible for not only the human rights violations, but they're also responsible for the economic crisis in the country.
A recent paper Orozco presented at the Inter-American Dialogue places the death toll squarely on the government's shoulders. He writes, the pro-Ortega justice system is enabling the use of repressive force, causing the deaths of over 300 people since 19th of April 2018. While Orozco's paper doesn't cite a source, it's even higher than the figures produced by international human rights groups like the Nicaraguan Center for Human Rights, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and the Nicaraguan Association for Human Rights. However, a study by independent Nicaraguan researcher Enrique Hendricks titled Monopolizing Death found major flaws in the reports by human rights groups. Hendricks says the reports conflated all deaths that occurred in Nicaragua since April, including accidents and the murders of supporters of the Sandinista government, with killings by government forces. The study also found the human rights groups attributed 44 killings to the government that were actually carried out by opposition forces. Among those killed by opposition forces was police officer Gabriel de Jesus Vado Ruiz, who was tortured and burned at an opposition roadblock. But why didn't you include the killings by the opposition forces in the figure that you listed?
Well, I'm actually, my purpose of the testimony is to focus more on the need for political reforms, because there is basically a clear agreement as to the systematic nature of repressiveness of the Nicaraguan government.
With Washington pushing for crippling sanctions, it seems human rights are being politicized to fit its agenda. Reporting in Washington, Dan Cohen, RT.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.